Reading with your kids.
Hey, so great to see you. Come on in. Hi, my name is Jedley, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We are coming to you from the beautiful neighborhood of Reedville in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We are so happy that you're part of our beautiful Reading with Your Kids family. We would love to connect with you on social media, facebook.com/Reading with Your Kids, at Reading with Your Kids on Instagram, at Jedley Magic on Twitter. Our guest today is the author of The Joke Machine. Her name is Theresa Julian. If you are a regular listener of the Reading with Your Kids podcast, you've probably heard me say about a bazillion times that I present educational magic shows at schools all across the country. Well, guess what? I'm not able to do that right. Well, I'm not able to do that in person right now, but I am able, and I'm really excited about this, I am able to present my show, We Will Roar, Respect Others and Read, at schools all around the world through the magic of technology. We are using Zoom for the most part, but there's all sorts of other platforms. We've set the studio up here in the Reading with Your Kids headquarters. We've set up a great Zoom studios that is filled with magic, and I'm having so much fun. I had no idea that magic through technology can really be magical, and it can really be interactive. I've been so pleased that the shows that I've presented so far, I've been so pleased that I've been able to see the reaction of the kids up close and personal. I've been really, really delighted to see how much they are enjoying the magic, and I'm really excited. The thing that I thought that we lose through technology is the ability to connect with kids and to have them be part of the magic. But we've figured it out, and I'm so happy about it. And I would love to invite you, no matter where you are in the world, to go to WeWillRoar.com. Find out more about this show. Find out how you can bring it to your community, to your school, to your church, to your library group, your extended library group, to your scout group, to just your family and friends. My goal is to perform for groups on every single continent this year, and I would love to have your help. Please go to WeWillRoar.com. Joining us right now from the beautiful state of Florida, she is the author of a really fun book called The Joke Machine. Please welcome to the show, Theresa Julian. Theresa, how are you?
I'm great, Jed. Thank you for inviting me onto your show. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited to be here, too. There are people out there who are listening, I'm sure would say, Jedley, you probably need that book, The Joke Machine, and start coming up with some funny jokes, because the stuff that you're using is not very good. Tell us about The Joke Machine and what we're going to experience when we read it.
Okay, great. So The Joke Machine is a nonfiction book that teaches kids ages 8 to 12 to create their own jokes. It explains the ins and outs of humor and shows kids how to use techniques that they're already learning in school, such as compare and contrast, literalness, exaggeration, understatement, etc., to punch up an ordinary sentence into something funnier.
Where did the inspiration to create The Joke Machine come from?
Okay, well, I always wished I were funnier. I always wished I were the person who could say a joke and, light up a room, and I never could. I was really a very shy child. And I wrote fiction throughout my adult life, and I really wanted my fiction to be funnier. And I thought, I think if I could make it funnier, I think it could be better and it could sell better. And I started researching humor, and I was very surprised to find it's something you can learn, not something you're born with. I, thought it was always something you're born with. And it really is a skill that you could practice and learn and sharpen. And I just got so intrigued with it. I just kept reading about it and practicing and exercising. And I put my fiction aside and decided I really want to write this nonfiction book for kids about how to be funny, because I saw there was nothing like it on the market. And I just thought so many kids would love it. And be interested in that topic.
Well, I absolutely agree. Kids love, my son, every time there was a book fair, there was a new joke book that came home. Unfortunately, most of the jokes in the books are the same. But kids do. They love to tell jokes. They love to be funny. And this is perfect because I'd heard too that, you're naturally funny. It's not something that you can learn. You're either born with it or you're not born with it. I know myself from doing live shows that, there's a part of my humor is instinctual, but there are definitely techniques and ways to take, if you are naturally funny, there are ways to improve on that. And if you can improve on what you started with, there's absolutely no reason why you can't develop into being funny.
Right.
What is it about humor that so many people want to be funny? Is it something that's just here in America, or is this desire to be funny universal?
I think it's universal. I was reading something about the history of humor, and it was even like a way that the cavemen communicated with each other. Like it was a way of telling each other that everything's okay. Like, when you make that sound of laughter, it's, reduces the stress and says it's okay. So we can trace humor all the way back to those days. But it's just so important in our culture because it really helps people connect, and it helps, kids or adults, build rapport and trust, reduce stress, ease through social differences. It's hard to be mad at someone you're laughing at.
It is. But, you bring up something, and I've heard this a lot from other performers. I've heard it a lot from comedians. There are a lot of established comedians who they want nothing to do with performing on college campuses. For a long time, that was the place to go because there was lots of funding there, and you could go there and you'd get a great audience and you get a great paycheck. But now a lot of comedians are saying, don't want to go there because everything I say, people find offense with it. And what about that? Do encouraging kids to be funny, are we encouraging them to take the risk to offend somebody, or is our society becoming so sensitive that we're not laughing as much anymore?
I'm really glad you asked that question because this book does not have one mean joke in the book, and it actually explains you should never use humor to make fun of another person. Mm-hmm. And it's not like the comedians, a lot of it is, making fun of a group or, their parents or their siblings or whatever. But this doesn't do that. This just explains how to end the sentence in a surprising way to create humor. So there's not a single bone of meanness in this book. It's all about playing with words and coming up with a creative ending that's not expected.
Cool. Can you give us an example of that?
Okay. Well, actually, Jed, would you like some instruction in how to be funny?
Absolutely. I could use it.
Okay. So I'll give you a quick rundown. Okay.
All right.
Okay. So like I said, humor is all about playing with words, the careful placement of words, and thinking outside the box. And the first chapter in my book is about surprise. So it's taking a thought and leading it in a specific direction and then quickly twisting it at the end. And it's that quick twist at the end that surprises us and makes us laugh. Mm-hmm. So we set that up in the first chapter. Then the second chapter is about contrast, which is really a key to humor also. So it's putting together two things that don't ordinarily belong together. So that putting them together surprises us. So like an 8-year-old boy who's also head of tech support. Two things we're not expecting together. Or your grandma who's also a NASCAR driver. So your joke is based on a foundation of contrasting elements. Then the third chapter is about comparison. So it's taking two random things that don't belong together and comparing them and showing us the similarity instead of the difference. So let me give you an example. So one of my favorite lines is Woody Allen's line, there's a spider in the bathroom the size of a Buick. So what he's doing is comparing a spider to a Buick, right? Things we are that contrast, but we can see the similarity when he puts them together in that sentence, and it's that similarity that surprises us and makes us laugh. Another example is don't trust her. She's as slippery as a banana peel. So we're comparing someone's personality to the slipperiness of a banana peel, right? Two contrasting things that we're comparing. Then I have another chapter on exaggeration, which is stretching the truth. So again, it's surprising your listener with something that's not expected. And the character in this chapter is a boy who thinks he's really fast at everything. And we have lots of examples and exercises. So the exercise in this book invites the children to think of ways to describe something that's fast in an unusual, creative manner. So instead of saying, I am fast, we come up with examples at the end of this exercise like, I'm so fast when I run around the track, I start and end in the same second. I typed my history essay so fast I wore off my fingerprints. I'm so fast I burp before I drink soda. So
I think I do that. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just going to go through a few more. So it's using like these basic techniques that kids are already learning in school and just using them to create humor. Okay, so another really great way to create humor is by using specifics. Like, so if you describe something in a really specific way with sensory details, it's usually funnier than, saying it in a plain vanilla way. So in this exercise, we ask the kids to start with an ordinary sentence like, my shoes smell bad. And we ask them to change that last word into something more specific and colorful. So the examples we give are, my shoes smell like I scooped them out of the litter box. My shoes smell like the bottom of an old lady's purse. Very specific. My shoes smell like they've been in my gym locker since second grade. My shoes smell like my dog's squeaky toy. My shoes smell like bug spray, the cheap kind. And then there's a chapter on literalness, a chapter on understatement, a chapter on getting common facts wrong, a chapter on twisting common catchphrases, even making up your own words, which I think is so much fun. Customizing an existing joke for the shy kids, even ways to combine all these different techniques. So it really goes quite in depth about how to create humor.
That's wonderful. And, as you're talking about it, I was thinking, what a fun way to teach language arts in school. As opposed to sitting them down and doing the traditional lessons, just kind of, a teacher turning the class upside down and saying, all right, here we go. We're going to learn about comparisons, but we're going to do it in this way.
Right. Actually, on my website, I have a post about how the joke machine is a creative writing tool disguised as a joke book. I really think it is. I mean, really creating humor is playing with words, like twisting their meanings, reversing the thought, ending in an unexpected way, the right word in exactly the right spot, describing something in exactly the right way. So it really is creative writing, creative thinking, expressing yourself more clearly. So I think it would be perfect for an English class.
Yeah. And one of the things, even if your kid doesn't want to be a comedian, or you don't especially want your kid to be a comedian, this is a great way because communication is so vital, and it really is the key to success. And if, the more we learn, the more communication techniques our kids learn, the better prepared they're going to be to go out there and to be successful in school, in business, and whatever it is that they're doing in life. Right.
Right. I agree. And I think it's a great foundation, even, it's a great skill to learn as a child, because I think you could use it your entire life. It explains how to express yourself more creatively.
And I think that this is great because there are a lot of kids in schools that are think of themselves as comedians, and they like to be funny. But, you know, they got their first laughs when they were 3 and 4 and 5 years old by saying fart. And they don't grow from that. So when they're 9 and 10 and 11 years old, they're still trying to make comedy the same way. This is a way to kind of stretch that a little bit and give them some more material.
Right, exactly. And also, I really think we do this in a very positive way, right? So the way I described it, it's never making fun of another kid or never even making fun of yourself. It's, you know, saying something unexpectedly and surprisingly and colorfully.
You know, you just brought up an interesting point about self-deprecating humor. I personally love that. It's something that I use here on the show. It's something that I've used in my my live shows. But one of the things that I've noticed, and I don't know if I'm just not doing this the line the right way, but there was a line that I've done for years and years and years, bringing out this bag that I'm going to do a magic trick with, and I turn it inside out, and I say, hey, I want you to look and see that this bag is empty, just like my head. And for decades, and you smiled right there. Decades, that got a great laugh. And it was also one of these things where I could get a secondary laugh because after the people laughed at me, I could turn and look at them, and that would bring, you know, another smile to the face. I don't get that, especially with younger kids these days. I say that, and I'll either get no response at all, or a kid in the front row will say, no, your head's not empty, you have a brain, which is really sweet, but I'm like, oh, what happened here?
You know, my guess is we're just more PC, that people, that even kids, they don't want to say, you know, acknowledge that someone else's head is empty. That's just my guess.
Okay.
As to why kids today aren't laughing at it.
Yeah. Well, what about that? Now, you say, you know, in your book, you're not encouraging kids to use self-deprecating humor. Why? I'd be very curious to know why that is.
Well, we don't really speak about self-deprecating humor. We just explain how to do it. Let's see. Well, you know what? I think it could work for adults, or, you know, you in your professional, you know, standing in front of kids, purposefully trying to be funny. But I don't think it could work for kids, because kids putting themselves down, you don't want to give, kids are so sensitive and they could be so mean. I wouldn't want to give another kid, you know, ammunition to use against me, like explain what's wrong with me so that calling out all my faults, I don't think it would work with kids the way it could work with adults.
Yeah. You know, it just comes to me naturally. I'm not advocating for it, especially with kids. Many of my teachers, one of my most beloved teachers in magic, Eugene Berger, who's passed, he always said, I don't do self-deprecating humor. It's not something I find funny, you know, and he encouraged against it. So, yeah, I'm not advocating one way or another. I just was really curious because it's something I sit down with my wife and I'm like, am I delivering the line the same way? What am I doing? Because that was fun. It would always bring out the laughs. This is cool. I'm wondering, what kind of reaction are you getting from folks who are experiencing the joke book?
Yeah, so it's gotten great reactions. The librarians love it. The teachers, we're getting it into the schools. The teachers are loving it. And like you said, the English teachers can see a real value, you know, a really fun way to teach, what they need to teach. And then a lot of kids like it, you know, it's just a joke book. It's not just a joke book, but it has a lot of jokes. It has, you know, over 500 family-friendly jokes. So there's the group that buys it, you know, just for the jokes. I think some kids buy it just because it's funny. You know, it's a really funny read. Every chapter, even the instruction is funny. There are like funny characters that deliver the information, and there are actually characters that, you know, fight with each other and argue with each other, and it's just pure silliness. But yeah, it's getting a really great reaction because, like I said, there's nothing like this out there. So, I think it has a wide appeal. Lots of kids either love to laugh or want to be funny.
Yeah. And I would, as we're thinking, as we're talking, you're talking about the librarians love it, the English teachers love it, and right now kids aren't seeing their librarians and not seeing their English teachers. I would think that this, especially now where parents 2 months ago went from doing whatever it is they're doing and they came home and they said, oh, by the way, on Tuesday, you also become your kid's teacher. And so you have the weekend to get ready for it, and and I'm sure that there's so many parents out there who they're doing a fantastic job, and we need to applaud them. But it's not something that they were looking forward to, and it's not something they're trained for. What a great way to sit down and just make teaching the kids some of those language lessons fun for both the kids and the parents.
Right. And in fact, I have lots of resources on my website. Like I have a PDF with all kind of subject-specific jokes that parents can download, and they keep kids reading and thinking, even though they're like history jokes, science jokes, math jokes, etc. They keep kids reading and laughing and engaged and better than watching screens. So, yeah. So lots of things you could do with humor that keep kids engaged.
I'm wondering, is this a book that could help the dad who is constantly making those bad dad jokes, or are those people just hopeless?
I definitely think it can. So I really think it's for ages 8 and up. Like my publisher keeps telling me it's ages 8 to 12, but no way, man. It's really a simple read, and it's got really basic principles, and I think anyone, any age, can read it and be funnier.
Well, absolutely. We talk a lot on this show about just how much fun those middle grade books are for kids and for adults too, especially if you're talking about something that you're interested, a subject that you're interested in, but you just want to dip your toe as an adult. You want to dip your toe into it. You don't want to take a master's level class in it. And, so this is something that would be great if you're, a salesperson, or you need to get up and present at work. This would be, a great way. You dip your toe in it. You like it. You become a little bit funnier. Then if you want to, get deeper into it, then you can take those more complicated classes.
Right. Yeah, I purposely kept it really, really simple for, 8 to 12. But when I first started researching humor, I was amazed at how dense and dry the books on humor were. Mm-hmm. They were like encyclopedias. Like, you're kidding me, right? So I took, I learned the concepts, and then because I was an English major in college and I, just loved English, I went back to my middle school days and I took what I learned there, like all these basic concepts, and I just started organizing it in the super, super simple basic concepts. And it just made it so much clearer to me than those, complicated adult books.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Now, did you sit down and how did you research this? Did you go into the comedy clubs? Did you interview comedians?
No. So I just read lots. Well, there aren't that many, but I read as many as I could find adult books on humor. And some of them were like sketch comedy, improv, create your own joke, different things like that. So they were all looking at humor from a different point of view. And then so I love, quotes. So I started keeping track of quotes. I had this Word document and I started keeping track of quotes. And I kept saying to myself, okay, now what makes that funny? What makes that funny? And then I started seeing patterns like, okay, well, all these are comparing one thing to another. Mm-hmm. All these are using irony. All these are using contrast, and then I just put it in those categories and I kept, hey, I think I have something here. I think I can turn this into a book. So that's what I did.
That's wonderful. Now, is there going to be the Joke Machine 2 or 3, or is this one and done for you and then you're moving on to a new project?
There is going to be a 2. So it's coming out in the fall of 2021, also by Macmillan. And it's a prank book.
Ooh.
So it teaches kids how to prank, but it also teaches them about physical humor. So it explains how to use like funny faces, silly voices, tripping, all kind of physical humor in their pranks. So the way the first one taught about verbal humor, the second one talks about physical humor.
Awesome. Hey, well, I'll just share this with you. One of the most amazing experiences for me as a performer, when I started performing in schools, I was much more of a clown than I was a magician, and wore the white face and the wild wigs and all of that, and did a lot of physical humor, falling out of chairs and hitting myself, and that was great, and the kids loved it. Teachers weren't crazy about it. The kids loved it. I went down to Puerto Rico and was performing in Puerto Rico and did the same thing and fell. I remember the first time I was in front of an audience and I fell out of a chair and it got a huge laugh. And then the audience applauded. And I was taken aback. I'm like, what? And I was sitting down talking to somebody afterwards, and the principal explained to me, of course we would applaud. That is an amazing talent. We recognize that you have this talent, and we wanted to acknowledge it. And every time before in Puerto Rico, they'd fall out of the chair, get a big laugh, and everybody would clap. And I'm like, this is wonderful. They respect this. Because it is that... I think here in the States, we don't respect physical comedy the way it's respected in other parts of the world.
Right.
And it is more than just hitting yourself in the head and not hurting yourself, but there's a real art and skill to it.
Right. And it's equally as interesting. I did a lot of research on physical humor, and it's just amazing how you could make someone laugh with no words.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah, because again, it's unexpected. Nobody was expecting you to fall off your chair.
Right.
And probably the way you did it too made people laugh.
Yeah. And that's one of the neat things about clowning that I miss is that you can go and you can use these physical techniques to make somebody that you can't communicate with words laugh and bring a smile to their face and develop a friendship. Like an immediate friendship.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
With anyone, right? Like I'm saying, humor crosses social barriers, right? If you're laughing with someone, there's a rapport there. There's a friendship growing there.
Absolutely. And I love what you said, if you're laughing with somebody. And I love the fact that your books are encouraging kids to learn how to laugh with people, not at people. Very important. So very important. Hey, we need to know where we can connect with you online so that we can learn more about the Joke Machine and be ready to pick up Joke Machine 2.
Okay. So you can go to my website, which is theresajulian.com. So I have the link. It's sold on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, all the independent bookstores. So all the links are at the bottom there. So.
Excellent. Well, we've had a great time talking to the author of The Joke Machine, Theresa Julian. Theresa, thanks so much for being on the show.
Thank you, Jed. It was a pleasure.
Please be sure to join us for the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Our guest will be Paul Warnke. He will be here to celebrate his Reading with Your Kids certified great read. My brother came home with a cone on his head. We're not talking about ice cream cone either. That's the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. If you have a wonderful children's book that you would love to tell the world about, we would love to have you on the show. All you need to do is go to our website, readingwithyourkids.com, click on the contact button that you'll find at the bottom of the page. Let us know about your great book. We will let you know the next easy steps. Speaking of easy, it's going to be really easy for me to thank the people who made today's show so wonderful. Of course, we want to start with our guest, Theresa Julian. Be sure to check out The Joke Machine. Also want to thank my incredible team, starting with my amazing producer, Fatima Khan. I want to thank my awesome author ambassador, Peggy Cotto. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me, but most of all, I want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today, and as always, thank you so very much for taking the time to make the world a better place by reading with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.